Good evening and welcome to Awakening Wednesday. So grateful to have you here with us today to be a part of this divine celebration. We have a special treat today. Reverend Sherry is in the house and she has Brother Joseph Miller with her as we will explore interfaith spiritual connection. They're coming up, but before we do that, as we always do on a Wednesday, let us just do a blessing right now to prepare our hearts, our minds, and our spirit to receive what is about to unfold. It is this divine space that we rest in. Whether you call it God, source, light, just take the breath and rest in that divine space right now. Feeling the connection that we all have, that there is only one thing, and that is the divine that is unfolding through each and every one of us as we individualize our divine magnificent expression. Giving thanks to the power and the presence and the love of God, of source, of light, of infinite, of music, of all that is. We just open our hearts and receive the good that is unfolding. And with that, one of my favorite tunes that I get a chance to do that I haven't done in a long time. If you're down and troubled and need some love and care, nothing is going right. Ooh, keep your head together, then call God's name out loud. Soon you'll feel spirit in your soul. You just call out God's name, and you know wherever you are, Spirit is with you, always and forever. 'Cause don't you know that winter, spring, summer, or fall, all we gotta do is call. Light is there. You got a friend. Ain't it good to know you got a friend? Sometimes people are cold. They can hurt you and desert you. Take your soul if you let them, but don't you let them. You just call out God's name, and you know wherever you are, Spirit is with you, always and forever. Don't you know winter, spring, summer, or fall, all we gotta do is call. Source is there. God is your friend. Oh, source is your friend. Ain't it good to know you got a friend? Always, always, always. Oh, God is your That's a great tune. And yeah, I did tweak it a little bit on the lyrics. So as we get ready to be prepared for interfaith conversation, I have a little video for you I want you to check out and get yourself ready. So, with divine technology,
hello, beloveds. I'm so honored to be here this evening, Reverend Sherry, and to have a special guest talking about interfaith connection. We're going to have a dialogue. And my special guest this evening is Brother Yusuf Miller. Hi, Yusuf. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And so, as a guest, we'd like to know a little bit about you. But first, I'll just say I know that you are a full-time advocate in all kinds of areas, in women's rights, environmental. You are going to the UN in March, the month of March. And I understand your oldest son follows in your footsteps too, and he got a scholarship for doing some environmental stuff. And I just want to say that we met when doing work for Interfaith. Doing for ICEJ, the Interfaith, and I always forget the C.
Coalition.
The Interfaith Coalition for Earth Justice. So Earth Day, we did a couple things together. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about you and your walk of faith.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to even express myself about the religion of Islam, my faith. It was a pleasure to even meet you on the road and the journey towards ICEJ, the Interfaith Coalition of Earth Justice, and to work together in the spirit of harmony and stewardship of God's creation. And in my faith, it has a concept of greenery, earth justice, earth equity. And I came to my faith through birth. My parents were Muslim, both of them were Muslim in Chester, Pennsylvania. So I grew up under the umbrella of Islam, and it lasted my entire life, even to today. And it's one of the very important parts of my being.
I love that. I was born in Pennsylvania also. Didn't know we have that in common. And you know, there's so much that many of us just don't understand or know about Islam. And, you know, with the way the world is today, there's so much dialogue, well, or lack of it, and understanding. But before we go more into that, let me just ask you, you know, since you were born into Islam, And maybe I'll just mention that Islam is the faith, and a person who follows and practices the precepts of Islam is called a Muslim.
Yes.
And often people who are not a Muslim often get those terms mixed up. But what is it about your faith that you appreciate most, that really just grabs your heart?
What really grabs my heart is the connection to the divine. It's the 5 daily prayers. A lot of people see it as iconic. When they see a Muslim pray, you don't confuse them with a Buddhist or a Christian or a Jewish person. You know that they are Muslim. It's kind of iconic. But it's more than that. For me, it is a connection to the divine that is the utmost appreciation for all that the divine has done for us. And we remember that 5 times a day, at least. That's the minimum. We have a concept where when you pray, you're actually standing before your Creator as you pray. And that loving connection is something that I really value. I stand before the one that's created me, created all the good in my life, even prepared all the obstacles in my life that I could learn from. And I stand before that entity and thank him for all of the trials, the tribulations, the good times, the bad times, the learning experience, and to share in that divine peace by knowing that he's in control.
Beautiful. And I know that other faith traditions also tell us to strive for continually walking in and being in the presence of the divine. St. Francis of Assisi, from the Christian tradition many centuries ago, he talked about praying continually. And as he would walk in the gardens of the monastery, tending the flowers, or he was also, he made shoes when he was working at his cobbler's bench, I guess, and making shoes. He was just constantly talking with and listening to God and being in that moment-to-moment prayerfulness. And that's just something so challenging for many of us in modern times. Our jobs, our kids, all the busy work. So what anchors you? What helps you to keep the divine before you and to do that? Is it the prayer practice? Is it other things?
Well, it's the prayer practice for me and the reminder throughout the day that God is with you. The divine is with you. Never give up. The divine is with you. And if you're attentive enough, you can see the divine in everyone and everything. Even if it's something that you don't consider pleasurable to you, maybe a sound or maybe a sight that you don't find pleasurable, there is the divine in that. And the remembrance of the divine continuously throughout the day is what I really appreciate, and I find a connection with our brothers and sisters of faith, other faiths, who are always striving for the divine as well. We don't have the market cornered on the desire for the divine. We're all here looking for that and striving for that, even though we may do it in different traditional ways.
Yeah, thank you. And you said the divine voice. Just recently in some of my talks I gave, the universal voice, the many different ways that divine voice can show up in our lives. In the scriptures, in the Christian scriptures, it talks about the messengers of God as Gabriel coming to, Mary, the mother of Jesus, to the shepherds before the birth of Jesus, that there it was and then of course the voice of the divine, Jibril, also Gabriel, who came to the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be his name. And that's where the Quran comes from, listening to that divine voice. Now that's voices from in the past, in our history, but that can happen today, not only in audible voices and visions, but I guess in our dreams and through other people, through you speaking to us today, hearing with our hearts. It can happen in meditation. There's just so many ways the divine reaches out to and into and through us. This is beautiful.
It is. I'm so happy that you brought up Jibril, alayhi salam, upon him peace. We say upon him peace in Islam when we say Jibril's name. He is a non-human prophet. to human prophets. So he is a prophet among our prophets. So we say upon him peace when we say his name. And I thank God that he sent Jibril upon him peace to Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Because with that blessing comes our glorious Quran. And that Quran tells us that everything we see is moved and inspired by the divine. So whether we recognize it or not is our problem. We can remove the veil from our eyes, and we should be able to see the divine in everything.
Everything?
Everything. Everything.
I know. And sometimes I get asked that as a minister. It's like, well, I think there was even a book, when bad things happen to good people. Well, all right, right now there's this Russian and Ukrainian war. Is there God in that? How do I see God in that? Starvation of children, people dying of illnesses, and they're praying and praying to be cured. And, whether it's cancer or whatever it is, COVID, they still die. So is God listening to us?
Absolutely. Let's take the first example, the war in Ukraine. The blessings of the times when there weren't wars in Ukraine is a blessing. The blessing of those who escaped from the war of the Ukraine is God and his presence. Those who go and fight for the right and justice in Ukraine is God in action. So even when we have death and tragedy that appears to be so heavy in this world, God's world is greater than that. His plan is greater than that. And if we can look through the tragedy and persevere anyway, then we will come to the God consciousness that he is everywhere. And I think back to the slave here in North America and throughout this hemisphere, where they were praying to God for centuries. Were they relieved right away? They weren't. Some were, but most weren't. But with that inspiration of God, and God is there, gave them the strength to escape north, to ask other brothers and sisters for help, our white brothers and sisters, our indigenous brothers and sisters for help. And there is God in that. So we cannot escape God's presence no matter what tragedy.
Beautiful. And, next month is Black History Awareness Month, although it should be every day, in every moment. And the treatment of Black people, slavery, it's certainly embedded in our history here in North America and throughout the world, but especially as United States citizens, looking at that. And I like what you said, it's the consciousness. And in science of mind and spirit, that faith tradition that I uphold and believe in, is that it's our consciousness. Now, consciousness is a big word, but basically it's our awareness, our way of approaching the divine, of thinking about God. And when things happen, and they do, life, this human life is a roller coaster ride of things, right? As a father, just all of us, just living on this planet, know there are good days and bad days, good years and bad years, but it's not what happens to us. The divine would never, ever do that to us. It doesn't zap us with bad things. It's just natural. It's law. It's the material world, how things happen. But how I respond to it, today, just this morning, I was doing some work outside my home and pulling on a rope, and the rope let go, and I went backwards, and bam, I hit the cement hard. Kind of knocked the wind out of me for a few moments. And I was kind of laying there and in my head going, ow, 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 ow. And I didn't think, oh, God did that to me. Now, was I having some negative thoughts before that? Sure. My wife asked me, what was your state of mind? And I'm like, I was kind of like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be doing this work outside. But anyway, I just was kind of felt that everything was working, and I gave thanks that it was all okay. And so it was my consciousness, my response. And then to be thankful for that I even have a home, that I have a yard and a garden to work in to take care of when so many are homeless in this world. I bring gratitude into that consciousness.
Oh, that is so beautiful because I'm so thankful that you didn't break a bone. I'm so thankful that you're not in the hospital right now. So I am so thankful, even in that tragedy, I can see the beauty of God sparing you the trip to the hospital, sparing you the pins in your leg and your bones. It's just so thankful, and that we learn from that. This is a blessed lesson, just before you came here, a blessed lesson to share with the community.
Absolutely. So we seem, at least you and I, but it seems our faiths do have a lot in common at the core. But what misperceptions, maybe one or two key ones, do you find that people have about Islam, and what would you like to speak to tonight?
Well, my whole life, it's been the concept, the misconception is the concept that Muslims are out to get you. Muslims hate everyone who is not Muslim, and they want to harm everyone who is not Muslim. But actually, the faith is far different from that. The faith is far different. If you go into the Quran itself, there are some verses that really shake people at their foundation, what they believe on Islam. For example, there's a verse in the Quran that says, "Let he who believe, believe, and let he who disbelieve, disbelieve." Let. This is in the Quran. This is from the speech of Almighty God. There's also another verse in the Quran that says, "To you your religion, to me my religion." It doesn't say that we have to force this upon them. And the last thing I'll say when it comes to those verses is that there's a verse repeated throughout the Quran, "La hikra fad-din," which means there is no compulsion in religion. No compulsion. You cannot compel people in religion. So then when you see on YouTube or you see on Facebook and you see all of these things where Muslims, individuals are doing these things, it is not of Islam, it is of themselves. Islam doesn't teach that.
And we have something similar, that we say there are many paths up the mountain to God. There are many faiths. And to allow each to believe, to know that each person is on their path. Now, that said, I am a minister. I like to speak and teach, preach to people, not to, but with and share. And it's got to come from within them. Each soul each individual has to come to their faith on their own. What about, you were talking about that many people think Muslims are out to get them. You can turn this way a little bit more. And what about jihad? That's something I know people hear of and think that's a holy war. And can you tell a little bit about what that's about?
Yes, the term jihad has been co-opted by non-Muslims to mean destruction of non-Muslim nations and non-Muslim people. Jihad is a part of every Muslim's everyday life. For me to come from where I was to get here is a jihad. Traffic, as you know, is a jihad. Waking up for the morning prayer is a jihad. In Islam, it only means struggle. And there's two types of jihad. There's the greater jihad and the lesser jihad. The greater jihad is the jihad within yourself, to restrain your anger, to restrain your hunger during Ramadan, to restrain your tiredness and it's time to pray, to be patient. This is the greater jihad. And then there's the lesser jihad. The lesser jihad is the struggle between other people.
And that's the lesser.
That's lesser jihad.
Interesting.
The greater jihad is always within. And you have to fix the person in the mirror first before you can do anything else. So this term has been co-opted. And when people come to me and say things like, "Are you a jihadist?" I'm like, "I can't be a Muslim without being a jihadist." And then they go, "Whoa." I'm like, hey. Learn our definition of jihad and not YouTube's definition of jihad.
Yeah, thank you. It is a faith of peace.
Yes.
Go ahead.
A faith of peace. In Islam, it means the peace, Islam. And it's the peace, the tranquility you get from serving and accepting the one God. That tranquility state is the peace that Islam is. And one who accepts that peace is of that peace, and they are Musalam.
Thank you. I didn't know that meaning of salam, musalam. And that is two things, I think, at core of most denominations, most faiths. First, that there is something greater. There is God. There is the divine, the one, we say, the all. And the other is that it's not just something out there, but it's that understanding, that peace, that consciousness that we bring into ourselves and are ourselves. There's so much in common if we only learn, if we only get educated about that. Thank you. Are there some other things that you would like people to know about Islam?
Well, there's two particular concepts that I want to make sure that people understand. When it comes to Islam and this conflict between people who don't agree with us, the Quran, again, says that do not let your hatred for another people cause you to transgress the boundary of justice. The boundary of justice. Do not let your hate cause you to transgress the boundaries of justice. Then Allah in the Quran yells at us. He says, be just, because justice is closer to piety. So not even if I hate a person, not even if I disagree with a person, I cannot transgress the boundary of justice. This is from the creator of the heavens and earth in our holiest book on earth. And another thing Allah says in the Quran, do not make fun of other people, because in their ignorance, because once you make fun of someone, they get mad and they get angry. In their ignorance, they will turn and make fun of Allah. So we can't even make fun of other people's worship. We can't make fun of other people's tradition, because that will cause them to take a route of self-defense, and you did that.
Just pausing for a moment to let those words roll in, to sink in. You know, that we use the word justice so many different ways. And I can't think of the last time or ever that I saw a bunch of Islamic protesters with placards and protesting something. You know, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian. And each year I either watch or participate in San Diego's Pride Parade. And there's always a group of very strict Christians on a certain block, and they have their placards there with very demeaning words and sayings that God hates us. And yeah, so I've been where we've marched and we turned it around and we've just made, you know, little heart symbols and blown kisses or just put our hands to our hearts. And it's a very small group of people that use their religion to blame, shame, harm others. But yet that's what the press gets a hold of. Mm-hmm. That's what gets magnified. That's what is seen, you know. Oh, drama yes. For the news feeds and it's wonderful to be talking about this, that we have so much more in common than we do different. And the differences are more in practice, would you agree, rather than policy or principle?
Right. I would think at the core, the heart of all of our faith traditions, it's very similar. They're absolutely identical at the core. In some of our practices, the way I pray 5 times a day, some formal, some informal, may be different. But we all have the same objective. Our objective is the connection with the divine. And I want to touch on when you said these people, they make these slurs and they say these harmful things. In Islam, we have to be really, really careful about hurting someone's heart, because one of God's names in Islam, 99 names of God, which are descriptions, is the mender, someone who fixes something. And he may fix that person's heart by breaking my own. So we have to be very afraid of the mender when we break people's hearts. It's not a small deal.
That reminds me of a saying that I heard of, when you hold anger to another, that's like poison. But actually what you're doing is poisoning yourself. Mm-hmm. And so forgiveness, compassion, love, that's the antidote to that poison. And eventually, with our faith practices, we want to get to a point where we don't even deliver that poison. We don't throw those poison darts or blow them out. So what can we do to get better at sharing the world with these other faiths? I know you do a lot of interfaith work, and now interfaith just meaning working with people from other communities, Buddhist, Jewish, Catholic, Islamic. What can we do?
Recognize our sameness. We're so focused on what divides us and what's different. If we just concentrate and boil it down to what we have in connection, then we would see past all of our differences, whether it's color, whether it's tradition, whether it's gender, whether it's any kind of superficial identity. We could look at the core of the person and see that we are the same. There's only one race of human beings on the whole planet. There's only one type of spirit in every human being on the whole planet. So once we recognize that, I think we come to a situation where you are me and I am you. And we're going to the same place. And the only way we can get there is together. It's the only way. So once we recognize that, whether a person is Buddhist or a person is atheist, a person is whatever tradition, they are still me. There's a saying in Islam that there are only two types of people on earth. Two types. One is your brother or sister in Islam, and the other is your brother or sister in humanity. The only two types.
Indeed, we're all one. We're part of the one because the Creator made us. And we have, the other day I was saying to somebody, think of God as the Spirit of God, the essence of God, being like this infinite pantry of ingredients. And those ingredients were brought together in each of us in a unique and beautiful way. It's all God, but we all come out these different flavors and expressions of ourselves. And you mentioned race, and I would imagine this is a hard thing sometimes for people to grasp and to talk about, that color of the skin and culture comes into it too. Is there anything you'd like to say to maybe something you've experienced or in addressing that in faith?
Yes, there's racism all over the planet. In a Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition, and the Islamic tradition, all traditions, there is racism. But they are implants into the tradition. None of those traditions tell their followers, adherents, to be racist. Let's take, for example, the Quran. The Quran, Allah says in the Quran, I have created you into tribes and nations so that you may recognize one another. Not despise one another, not to hate one another, but to recognize one another and get to know one another. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, before he passed away on his last sermon, he said, there is no black over the white. There is no white over the black. There is no Arab over the non-Arab and no non-Arab over the Arab. The only thing that elevates a person is piety, their connection with God.
That's right, that connection with the divine. So are there some practical things that we in communities, Universal Spirit Center or other spiritual groups around the county, things that we can do to work together in faith? I know you do a lot of advocacy and a lot of work in interfaith communities. Do you have some practical examples for us?
Yes, I think it all starts, like I said, internally for individuals, and they need to start with, I would say, gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude causes you to be in service to other human beings and the animals and the planet. This is gratitude. And gratitude causes you to be prayerful. Once you have this gratitude, it propels you out into the community, into service, no matter what the faith tradition is. So we have faith Interfaith for worker justice. We have Interfaith for earth justice. We have Interfaith for all kinds of things. And if a person cannot find an interfaith activity to belong to, they haven't looked quite hard enough yet. We're out here and we're available for you. So once the gratitude propels us out of our chairs, we'll find it and the veils will be lifted from our eyes, and God willing, we will hit the street running.
And there is a interfaith activity happening in Balboa Park. Now, it was rained out on Monday, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's happening Thursday? February 20th. And so just Google it, look online. And speaking of interfaith, there are a number of groups in San Diego. Just Google, Interfaith San Diego. And there are a number of groups that you can get involved in, including the Interfaith Coalition for Earth Justice, which we are a part of. Is there anything else that you want to share as we bring this to a close about interfaith connections?
Interfaith connection. I would like to share my gratitude for your faith, for inviting my faith here to share. This gratitude, it increases the love between one another. It's an expression of God. So I want to express my connection with God by being thankful to you and your center and everyone involved in this production, to make sure that we are seen together, loving, and in concert with our identity with the divine. So thank you so much.
And thank you. And thank you for your work in women's rights, the women of in Iran, at the UN you're going to be going, that here in San Diego County, you and I are going to be working together on an Earth Appreciation something event, now that Earth Fair has kind of gone away, Earth Day. So there'll be something, so stay tuned for that. And I just also want to thank you with gratitude for becoming a new brother to me, and to all of you out there who are watching. Please share this video and get involved. And also take each day to become connected with that which is within you, the one divine, the one creator of us all, and know that we are one. And I'd like to ask Brother Yusuf to close with a prayer for us.
Let us pray. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, thank you for bringing us together, sharing our love, our heart, our spirit, in a way that brings people together, the ultimate reflection of your love and mercy upon this world. Let us go forth together and learn more, increase our interest, increase our sincerity of bringing one another closer in a loving, meaningful way. Amen.
Amen.
I was so confused on which way to go.
What a powerful, powerful time with Reverend Sherry and Brother Joseph Miller. Wow, thank you both so much. That was really, really beautiful. I know your hearts and spirits were fed and knowledge was provided. One of the things I love about Universal Spirit Center is that we are always striving to express and create a world that works for all. And that means being able to talk to anyone, anywhere, at any time, recognizing the divinity within them. And you do that, Universal Spirit Center. You do that in so many ways. You support us in most magnificent ways. And now it's our conscious giving time. So you can hit that QR code. If you're at home and you're watching on your computer or you're watching on your iPad, you can use your phone and just hit the QR code. If it doesn't work automatically with your phone, most of the time it means that you haven't turned on the QR scanner within your phone. If you have an iPhone 13 or later, you'll go through your settings and go to camera and then just click on QR code. And you do the same for Android. I don't have an Android, so but I'll have that for you on Sunday. And I just thank you so much for your light, your love, your joy, your givingness. As you're a part of this divine givingness that we are, where you give your time, your talent, and your money. We are here to be of service, and it is through your support that we're able to do that. So I thank you so much for that. You are, hold you in my heart. You're a part of me. You are the face of God.
You are the face of God.
You are. I hold you in my heart. You're a part of me.
You are the face of
You are. So these are the many different ways how you can support via mail, snail mail, do they call it? Online, our PayPal. We also have Zelle. Once again, you can't click the QR code. You can always go to our webpage and hit the donate button. Yes. That being said, there are a lot of things happening at the center. Our community home group meeting will take place January the 29th, sponsored by our one and only Joe Chivarella. It's a wonderful way to be within the community in a smaller group of community where you really get to know each other and you get to discuss the consciousness of spirit and the lessons that are taught here. Also, our Divine REP, the call this week is a powerful, powerful video. Colorblind or color slide, I think it is. Colorblind, I know colorblind is one of them, but it's a fantastic video. Opens your mind and your heart up to just check where you are. What are your biases that are coming up? And as always, at the end of the month, we're always so blessed to have our wonderful Toby Geis that will be here next Wednesday doing breath work. Woo woo. What a great way to heal yourself, heal your body, to recognize all the divineness that's taken place within your life. We just have a few more announcements here. Third Saturday with Angels will take place with Margot Alora, and that will be at her home. Contact Lee at universalspiritcenter.org for that. Also, Reverend Sarah, her class Roar Like a Goddess will be taking place. So please check that out. If you haven't, you can go on our webpage and find out this information. Fantastic. If you're down and troubled and need a helping hand, I'm so glad that you're here. We'll see you next Wednesday, because we also stream. If you can't come in person for our breathing work, we will stream it online as well. It's a wonderful way to get your spirit and your essence connected and centered for this brand new year of 2023 that we have. So I thank you for being here tonight. I thank you again, Reverend Sherry and Brother Miller. What a fantastic, beautiful job. Oh, you just call out God's name, and you know wherever you are, Spirit is with you every day, every day, every day, in every way. 'Cause don't you know that when our spring, summer, or fall, all we had to do is call, Spirit's there. You got a friend. Ain't it good to know you got a friend? People can be real cold. They can hurt you and desert you. Take your soul if you let him, but no, 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 no. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you Sunday morning, 8:30 and 10:30.